have CEO and founder of Press It, Phil Kluba. Thank you so much for joining us, man. I appreciate it.
Like, if you're going to be in a creative media industry, you got to take some risks. You got to put out content that is, and I don't know, like, I just kind of like trust the universe in a sense. Other creators, I give them the tools that they need, and I'm just like, go play, and then things happen, and then I'm like, that's what art is. Now I'm imagining these glasses, like you're going to be able to wear them. You're going to see things like, this is sick. Wait, sometimes I'm wondering, are my thoughts even my own? Or has this thought been influenced? I'm just like curious, like what happens if I push the simulation this way a little?
What's going on, Meeting Gold listeners? It's Chris Battaglia, 416 Coffee, best coffee in the world. Use the coupon code MEETINGGOLD to get 10% off your first order at 416 Coffee. Enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Meeting Gold Show. We want to thank you for joining us today. And we've got a cool guest on. Metaverse, we're going to discuss. Crypto, is it worth it? Should you buy it? Elon Musk, which we've been talking about for quite some time off camera. And on top of that, we have CEO and founder of Press It, a media company based in Toronto that services live streaming, really cool music video production.
Yeah.
I gotta applaud you. That's pretty cool stuff. Phil Kluba, thank you so much for joining us, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And then there's a nice vineyard out there that I keep looking
There you go.
Into the abyss.
He's obsessive about the vineyards that are out right now. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason you're going to be interested in listening to today's podcast, because we have to give them a reason, right, Phil? I mean, why else would they listen, right? So Phil runs a media company, but he's taken an interesting approach to it. He may not necessarily be the guy that creates all of the ideas or does all of the marketing or does all the shooting, but he's a top dog. You started this company, you've got a lot of subcontractors below you, which is an interesting business model to be running. A lot of people want to do it themselves, and a lot of people want to subcontract. And I think there's a variety of different ways you can go about creating a company. And what's interesting is, nowadays, you could actually create a company out of anything. You don't need to know anything about it. As long as you can get funding and find the right people to do it, you shave something off the top and you're happy.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that, except like in my case specifically, I do love what I do. Like I know a lot about media production. I know a lot about songs. I have a background in all that. I'm very fascinated by technology. So the things that I surround myself with are basically my personal interests.
Similar industries. Okay, I gotta get deep with you right away. How does somebody chase their personal interests? Because a lot of people are in jobs that don't feed their interests or like what they want to do or what they find, a passion in.
Honestly, I think for me, it was a lot of like how I was raised personally. I think like my family coming from like my family are like my parents are immigrants. They're kind of like, hey, this is an opportunity for you. Take as many chances as possible. So it's not like my parents were ever like, hey, molded into something. Like my mom, my dad, they were like, hey, chase what you want to do. Like we came, like my parents came from Poland at the time. It was like a communist country where there wasn't that many opportunities. And so I think a lot of it does come from just how I was raised. And then honestly, just like personal, I'd rather like, and then with all that, I'm just kind of like, I don't like being told what to do and authority. And then I kind of am one of the lucky ones where in a sense where I get to just be myself, generate revenue out of it, and live the life I want.
Which is, I think, what everybody considers the dream life.
Yeah.
Would you say to yourself that you're living the dream life right now?
I was thinking about this recently, but yeah, so it's like 8 years ago, let's say it wasn't what it is today. So like at that point, there were a lot of struggles. But now I'm kind of like, hey, like this is great. I am where I want to be. I get paid to do what I want to do, and it's great. But to like go back in time a little bit, there were moments where I was like, hey, I'm not making any money. I've lost a lot of money. Hey, I put all my efforts into this. Is this going to work out? Right. And then it kind of works. And I think the 5-year plan works. Like, I think if you have like these goals, like I think like the things that are happening to me today are based off of decisions I made 5 years ago.
Really? That's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
I never looked at it that way. Can you kind of dive more into that?
Yeah, so I think at that time it was like, I don't know, I was in the music industry, and I was like starting to see, hey, I'm not making that much money writing songs. I'm like, hey, but people want videos. And then I started seeing that there's like these Universals, these Sonys, and everyone's chasing that. And I'm like, what if I started reaching out to the technology companies like Facebook, TikTok, or like TikTok didn't exist at the time, or it wasn't a thing.
Wasn't
that we
there
were
like Vine or something?
Yeah,
Vine,
Vine in some case or capacity. But I just like, I think my method has always been do the opposite of what my competitors are doing, like complete opposite, just go off the walls. And then, and that's kind of like has helped me stand out in whatever industry I'm in, I guess.
What do you think was the number one thing that your parents taught you at an early age that you think a lot of kids don't get taught in today's households?
Math.
Really?
Yeah,
Math.
Well, my dad rammed math like down my throat, but I'm like, that's great because that like I can just do this math in my head. I can figure out budgets. I can understand like when I'm putting a quote together, or like I could see how much I'm going to be taxed, or like whatever. Like I understand accounting and all that other stuff, and that does really help you like move things forward. So then you're budgeting yourself, and like all this stuff that helps you make the right decisions.
That's actually fascinating. Now, Phil, I can't wait too long to bring this up, but you have a flamethrower from Elon Musk when he needed to raise money for the Boring Company. You have to, because I didn't even know that what the strategy that he did behind it. I won't give it away. I want you to tell it. But why did he create these flamethrowers? And on top of that, how in the world did you get one?
Okay, so let's start off with Elon Musk made these flamethrowers because he needed to raise money for his new company, the Boring Company, which basically drills holes through cities to like literally it's boring, but it's like they're boring holes through. It's like a play on words, but it's also boring because it's boring.
You got to give it to him. He's smart.
So he made 20,000 flamethrowers, sold them at $500 a pop, raised capital, got what he needed to do with that company. How I got into possession of one is a little bit like, let's go back 2 years. So
wow, this goes back that long ago?
So there was like a moment where like I know we were in the pandemic where there was like lockdowns. I wrote a 1 minute song, and then I was like, hey, I want to make a music video for this song. The song featured me shooting a flamethrower out of a Tesla, and then I had a dancer who was wearing like an Elon Musk mask. It's a 1 minute video. It was like a short, but during this journey, like finding this flamethrower, I found some guy that had a flamethrower. Actually, he had two. His name is Ryan Bergio. He runs a marketing company out of Kitchener-Waterloo called Strive Marketing. And then we just kept in touch. He lent it to me for that video. He lent it to me for another video. He let me like use his office space to like film things in. And just recently, like one of his clients was like locked out of an ad account at a social media company, and I kind of connected them too, and they fixed that problem. And he was like, "Come to Waterloo, I have a gift for you."
Okay.
And so I come to Waterloo, and it's the damn flamethrower. So, and within that time frame, I also purchased a Tesla. So whatever in that
totally worked.
Happened in that video, I kind of like manifested it. So like even like once again, like the decisions you make a couple of years ago flourish years.
Right.
Like so like now I guess that was a 2-year plan, but prior to like a 5-year plan. Yeah.
So what do you do to, I guess, envision ideas that you want to see, come to fruition?
I usually have a very like rough idea of what a thing should be, because like we mentioned earlier, I subcontract a lot. Once we get all these other creatives in, they start molding it their own way, and then the end product usually becomes something that I never even imagined in the first place.
Because it's just so good.
Yeah, well, yeah, because you get all these bright minds together, you put them in a room. For me to be like, hey, it has to be this way, then like, I'm just limiting them. I'm limiting the potential of a project. So I usually just have like a rough idea.
Right.
I get other creators, I give them the tools that they need, and I'm just like, go play. And then things happen, and then I'm like, this is sick. And I don't know, like I just kind of like trust the universe in a sense, that everything will just work out.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a deep question. What's your thoughts on like how things come to fruition? Like you mentioned the universe. A lot of people think of the universe. A lot of people think of a god. What do you think?
I think of like the universe. I'm not sure. Like I feel like most entities have similarities in them. Like for like gods from different religions, kind of have like I don't know, they serve their purpose. It's what makes you want to get out of bed. It's what makes you want to do things. I sort of believe. Honestly, I don't know what I believe. Sometimes my opinion changes all the time. Sometimes I'm like, I think we're in a simulation. Other times I'm like, it's the universe.
The Matrix. We're in the Matrix, everybody.
No, because you gotta admit, sometimes you're like living life and then something just so out of line happens and it just like falls in your favor and it's just
And
kind
you're
of
like, what? How?
what just happened? And like a week ago, you're like, I'm so broke, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then everything just like, and you're like, okay, maybe there is some sort of higher power. Or maybe it's another theory that I once had was like, I feel like there's parallel universes. And like, if you put enough energy into like shifting your reality, I feel like you ripple into other like parallel timelines of your life and you bring them in to this one. So maybe there is a timeline where I am Elon Musk, let's say, or I'm
you
rich,
look like him.
or I'm like rich of some sort. But like in this timeline, I had to like just like push so hard, and then like an event happens, and then it ripples, and then things kind of move forward. I don't know if that makes sense, or if I just was like a rant there, but
No, I love hearing people's opinions on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so I want to ask you about your interests as of now, what you're also getting into. So you've mentioned Meta a lot, and people hate Mark Zuckerberg, but there's some people who love Mark Zuckerberg.
I personally think the people, like I've talked to a few people at Facebook Canada. I think they're some of the nicest, most brilliant people I've ever talked to. Like if you think about a corporation of that size, you got to understand it's sort of like a country in itself.
Yeah.
And where there is like political debates within the corporation itself. And I honestly, I feel like a lot of people might bash Zuckerberg or whatnot, but I think he's a pretty smart guy. And I think a lot of the things that happened with Facebook, I don't think he intended to do that. Like essentially, if you think of the internet, it's just an empty tube. He basically gave everyone an empty tube to communicate on. What is happening on these platforms, I think, is more a reflection of ourselves as a society than the person who created it, because what they created was just like an empty source of communication, I guess. We just filled it with whatever we...
Do you think there's a possibility that owners of certain creations can influence certain things?
I feel like once you get big, people are kind of like, wait, we need to like hone down. I think there is always going to be some sort of intervention of some sort. Like someone's going to try and step in. Someone's going to notice that there's a lot of power here, that you can sway things in certain situations. I don't know. I've never built anything that big, so I can only speak theoretically. So I don't know, but that's just an opinion. But if we want to go, but you did mention Meta on the first thing.
Yeah, I want to hear more about Meta.
Zuckerberg, but Meta in general, I like Facebook made the rebrand. They're now called Meta.
What do you think about that?
I think it was a very smart move. So for example, like I think the metaverse has existed prior to that, but now that they have done that, they've kind of positioned themselves as the leader in that space. And essentially, if you think about metaverse, it's basically video games. Like it's just video games that are becoming utilized by adults in some capacity and corporations and businesses. So most of these, like if you plug into the full VR, like if you engage yourself in VR, it's basically you're in a video game, you're communicating with yourself, with other friends. It's like Grand Theft Auto, but you make it corporate. I'm more interested like lately in the blending of the two. So it's like AR, augmented reality.
Right.
So like if you
so artificial intelligence.
No, like basically like, so like Facebook has that partnership with Ray-Ban, correct? So now I'm imagining these glasses, like you're going to be able to wear them, and you're going to see things like these AR filters that you have, like you can see people wearing like digital apparel, et cetera, et cetera. Like you probably use like one of those filters on Instagram where it's just like,
you always use like a filter.
Yeah, and
so you're saying is there's potential that there's going to be a virtual, but like mixed with real life filters.
Yeah. So if you're going to wear these glasses, like lenses that basically you would wear in reality, but that also leaves room for new ad space now too. So for example, like I could walk in here. This is a blank
you're
wall.
blowing my
This is a blank wall, but if you're like wearing these glasses, there could be an ad that just pops out of that wall right there, or something else of that nature.
Like an interconnected reality inside of actual reality.
Yeah.
Holy
or
smokes.
whatever. But like
my brain's going to blow up.
In that capacity or some of that nature. But yeah, I think I'm more excited about that. So like if you like, so I understand that right now, like making these filters. So Facebook has a platform called AR Spark, and you can build like filters that then you can upload to your Instagram pages and whatnot. Right now, it's like very much in its infancy. Obviously, the graphics don't seem as realistic, but I think in the future it will get there. And it's not just going to be through your phone lens. Like obviously, I don't even think we're going to have phones in the future. Like it's going to move more into wearables and all this other stuff. Everything's going to become more interconnected.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm just thinking. So it's like when you go on Snapchat and you like have the filter of the dog dancing or something.
Yeah.
Or like on TikTok, there was that trend of like this alien dancing, and people were dancing with it.
Yeah.
And you saw the alien on the ground, so it almost looked at your room.
Yeah.
You're saying that is going to start to become easier and easier to visualize.
Visualize by wearing these like glasses. Like instead of having to go on your filter, someone's just going to throw an alien in this room, and if I have these glasses on, I'll see the alien there.
So what we're seeing is a new upcoming potential for phones. Yeah. Basically. Because what my argument is, and I always like to play devil's advocate in my brain, and maybe you can help me dissect this, is a lot of people thought, who's going to use a cell phone because nobody else has it? You'd have to have the whole world using it for it to work. Really?
Yeah.
No, seriously, what is the point of my cell phone if nobody here used it?
Yeah.
There's no point, right? Maybe video games, whatever. But really, what you're saying is the whole world has to use this in order for it to work, and that's where you think it's going to go. You think that this is going to become the new phone.
Yeah, I think that eventually we're already starting to see things like this. Like for example, like the Apple Watch, you can take phone calls from there. That's a wearable. I think like we are like as humans, we're always like we want the easiest way to do things. And I feel like just having to wear this thing now you don't have to find your phone. Eventually it's going to be a chip in your brain potentially. But like,
and what do you think about that?
I'm not going to be one of the people that tests that on myself, but I think it's cool. But
okay, I got to ask you, because I always play middle ground on the show. Are we ever going to cross a line?
I think like we slowly are. Like even Elon has his Neuralink project where like now there are being chips put in. I think there was like a monkey not long ago
playing Pong. Yeah.
Yeah. I think eventually we will, or we might go back in time. So like there has been eras in history where things have regressed as opposed to moving forward.
Like clothing.
Like clothing, or I was thinking more of like the Dark Ages, through like the
I think I was talking too icing on the top here.
Yeah. But I was thinking about like there have been, like if you look at history, there have been moments in history where society has stopped moving forward and it kind of stalled for like maybe 100 years or a decade or what have you.
Do you think we'll stall? Because we've been on this such extreme exponential growth of technology in the last 30 years that it seems shocking. 23 years.
I personally don't think we'll stall, but I think there is a possibility of something like that
if we cross
occurring.
the line too quick.
I'm not sure if we cross the line too quick. I think things that would have influence on that would be the economy, recessions, depression, like maybe even a depression.
Interesting, because I was just going to ask. Can I kind of make an example? Because I think I'm so fascinated right now, but I want to make sure that people understand like an easier way of understanding is like, okay, let's say, you're a boss and you have 3 employees, right? And the employees kind of keep pushing things like making you say yes, oh, it's fine for like little things, and then it slowly builds up. Like Google's going through that right now where they've said yes to easier workspaces and everything, and now they're actually going back to their roots because they're realizing that they said yes too much and they didn't cross the line quick enough to realize that they crossed the line.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what we're going to start to see with society? And then my follow-up to that is, what is our reset? Because we don't have a CEO of the world.
I feel like there's like always a pendulum. So if we're talking about like if things go too far, there's going to be people that are upset with one way, and then it swings right back to the other like
Right.
the opposite opinion.
And you think the economy and like obviously the markets, like real estate stocks.
Like if we take a look at what's going on right now, like I feel like we've always been talking about globalization, but I feel like we're moving into a section right now because of like chip scarcity and all this stuff that we're kind of like deglobalizing. And instead of like cars are a lot harder to get as well. Like used car prices have gone up because you can't get them shipped to you from across the world. So like I feel like we're sort of deglobalizing a little bit, but it's going to be an exciting time because within recessions, within any of these types of opportunities, that means the market's shifting. And when the market shifts, not that there's a lot of opportunity there. So when I know that recession seems like a negative term, but that means some businesses die, new businesses occur.
It's like, okay, it's almost, and I don't know if this is like a proper example, but it seems to me that this is like in Marvel when Thanos said wipe half the human nation, because in his opinion, society wasn't like...
So did you just make a Marvel reference? Okay,
I
cool.
did. I love Marvel.
Anyways,
Are you kidding me,
cool.
man?
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Yeah, I love Marvel too. It's so like he just wiped. Yeah,
but do you know what I mean? Like,
but also just like speaking of that, who is the good guy here? Because like
that's
in
what I'm saying. There's no like
Thanos's
CEO.
like in Thanos's opinion, he thinks he's dead set on his idea, and he thinks he is the good guy.
Yeah, and it's actually such an interesting conversation, and I think we're going down this rabbit hole, and I love it.
Yeah.
No, I love it because
yeah.
like it makes people think, right? Is at what point in the world will we see who is the good guy when it comes to things like this? So like some people think Mark is a good guy, Zuckerberg, right?
Yeah.
Some people think he's like the Antichrist, right? Like there's so many different opinions, and society will never come to a set opinion on something. And then my question is, rules, governments in placing, for example, like privacy laws and all this kind of stuff. Like when you have a chip in your brain and it's a company's chip, you don't think that they're collecting data?
Oh, they're obviously collecting data, but like when we think about society and then what's wrong and what's right, I usually try to like step away from that because I feel like things are being put out there to like influence you a certain way. And sometimes I'm wondering, are my thoughts even my own, or has this thought been influenced on me? So when we're saying that a person may be good or bad, like I think good people do bad things and bad people do good things, and I think it's more sort of gray in a sense.
How much gray?
I think everything is gray. I think like honestly, I think nothing is even like real. Like it's kind of like I don't know. Yeah.
It's like a rabbit hole that we'll never be able to solve, but it's fascinating.
You like got me thinking about the microchip, and then I'm like, I own a Tesla right now, and that thing's connected to the internet. Like, what's stopping someone to be like, hey, don't drive here, drive there, because I'm just gonna steer your car this direction, and I'm gonna lock the doors, and also you can't turn it on right now. So,
and you know what? What I will say is, and not to get like too political, but okay, let's talk about what just happened with the protests in Ottawa. Okay. Just from a non-political scale.
the truckers?
Yeah.
Okay.
So whether you think they're good or bad, right? The idea to shut down somebody's bank account.
Yeah.
And some people justified that. But then some people said that was like, you can never do that. And I think if you look back 30, 40 years ago, no matter the case, if you told somebody in the 1880s, you would shut down their bank account, and the government would, it would, no matter what they did.
Well, so that's kind of like why crypto has a lot of
Potential.
But even like, let's forget about that. It's kind of like banks just move slow in general. Like, for example, I'm not like if you've ever sold stock in a company, by the time it actually shows up in your account, it's like a couple days. There's always like these hurdles you got to go through to like use your own money. So hence, like obviously when all these things were happening, obviously when a situation like that occurs, you see the crypto markets rally because
And actually, that's what happened, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of timelines, but it was crypto that blew up when that was happening.
Because everyone's like, oh shit, like
The government's taking over.
Is the government going to freeze my bank account? Wait, they can't freeze this. So let me throw money into there.
But the government's, from what I'm hearing, is basically crypto will not be supported on a wide scale if the government doesn't control it. And
Yeah.
in some ways,
so
I agree with that.
I think government intervention will actually pump crypto as like, I don't know. There has to be like a fine line.
But then we're not even solving the problem of the government being involved. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. So not like this kind of like Web 3.0. So like that's what we're moving into right now, like the metaverse, Web 3.0, wallets for cryptocurrency. So like if we go back to Web 1.0, which was like the 1999 .com boom and Napster and all this came out, and there was like it was the Wild West.
It was like the internet, basically.
It was like the internet, and people. And now there's Spotify. So Web 2.0 came out, and it was kind of like they took control of that, and then corporations like Spotify came out and started paying artists and everything in that nature. So we're in this era of now
capitalized on it.
Yeah, so now we're in this era of Web 3.0 where it's just like the Wild West with these new technologies, and I think Web 4.0 will be a repeat of like the government coming in and corporations coming in and just like making it more institutionalized.
Controlled?
Yeah. Institutionalized,
You know
controlled.
what?
I'm not sure what the right word.
Phil, that is fascinating because you're so right. This is like jaw dropping for me, and maybe not for some. People can call me stupid that I never thought about this, but I just never thought about it. Is that we have seen this happen before.
Yeah.
Just on a smaller scale. Like everybody's freaking out now, but everybody forgets 30 years ago when the internet came about. And it was like the Wild West. What's going on? It was literally what most people think about right now of crypto.
Yeah.
And I think because it's been condensed so much, whereas like advances back in the 1800s where it took like century, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now the advances are happening so much quicker that people are remembering last time. But here's what I want you to think about, maybe make a comment on, is that gray line is being pushed up and up.
Yeah.
How far will we get?
Only time will tell.
I like that answer.
Yeah. It's I guess honestly, like you just got to trust the universe. And honestly, like just I don't know, just flow with it. Like don't fight it. I would probably suggest. I know a lot of people, like for example, when like Uber came around and
that was a revolutionary thing.
And the taxi drivers were trying to fight it. And where did the taxi drivers end up? They probably should have just embraced the platform, worked with the platform. I say don't fight technology. I think it's going to win, like, every single time.
Will we see robots in the future?
Yeah, like there's Tesla bots. Have you heard about? Elon has made bots, robots, Tesla bots. I'm not sure when they're rolling out, but this thing's going to be doing your groceries, going to the store, being in your house, like cleaning things.
So will human society just become so lazy because they have machines do everything for them?
I think we're probably going to have to consider a universal basic income, or maybe get rid of money, period, and figure out some sort of way to live in this new society. Actually, I think money is very flawed, and if you think about it, there's a lot of loopholes, and that's a whole different conversation. But sorry, I lost my train of thought. What was the question?
Well, we were talking about money, and you were saying how it's quite flawed, and that you think there might be a potential for universal income.
Oh yeah, because are people going to be lazy and they're not going to? I think engineers are probably going to be like very useful, like coding engineers and people to supply robots. Obviously, cars are becoming automated. We won't need bus drivers. We won't need things of that nature. A lot of labor work in factories will become automated. I think even farming as well might even become automated. And in that sense, you're just going to need engineers and people who understand software, and those people will be employed in some capacity. And then what happens with everyone else?
That's what I'm saying is, okay, all farmers, now they lose their jobs. Where do they go?
Universal basic income, I guess. I have no idea. Like
so
UBI.
Do you think that a universal basic income is the best or worst thing that could happen?
It could be both, depending on which way it flows. So, like, if you think about it, like the Communist Manifesto, in theory, is a way where people work together for the people with the people. The issue in history has always been an individual comes in and is the power of that situation. So there's always an alpha. And then they start taking more and giving less and less and less. So I think as humans, we're flawed.
And evil corrupts.
And evil and corrupt. So in theory, communism should be amazing. But anytime it's ever been tried, it becomes a dictatorship. So I don't know.
And it's almost like it's unbeatable. You can't.
So, and then basically going back to the universal basic income thing, it's like in communism, you do get a stimulus check everything, and everyone's equal. So it's
will that
interesting.
take away drive of the human race, though? What I think is what makes us human.
Well, what makes wonder? I think we're always wondering what's like what makes humans progress is kind of like, hey, what's out there? Like, why am I going to sail this ship and find a new continent? Why am I going to build a space rocket and go into space? Why do I want to go to Mars? I don't know, because I don't know what is there, and I want to know. So I think that's usually, and I find myself doing that. It's like, why did I try to do like a lot of these like weird projects that I'm just like curious, like what happens if I push the simulation this way a little, and see what happens in the world.
I think it's such a hard conversation to have because it's so unknowing. And it's almost scary to think about, and people are reluctant to think about it. And I don't blame them, because you are right. Any communist society we've seen just completely being taken over by a flawed individual. But what people need to understand is everybody's flawed, and evil corrupts, and power corrupts, greed corrupts. So having somebody in a position, it's impossible for that person to be good all the time.
Yeah, so maybe we just get run by robots or something, because they have no emotion.
Then, see, now we're going to go deeper down the rabbit hole and say, okay, what about there was a case where a father brutally beat up and then ended up killing a man who raped his daughter. Is that bad or good? See, a machine would say it has to be either or. But society says it has to be either or in between.
That is a good point.
Does that make us human?
That's a very tough one. Like,
can a machine make that decision? That's what I'm wondering. And I don't mean to put you in a hard spot. I'm actually just like spilling my thoughts, because it is what makes us human that we can just never replace.
With machines, we might even be able to just like bypass crime completely. Like, I'm not sure if you've ever seen the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise, where they basically like see before a person is actually going to commit the crime.
What's it called again?
Minority Report.
Okay, I gotta watch it because I feel like I remember hearing about it.
So essentially, in that movie, there's these energies that they have that like they can see a person commit a crime before it happens.
But what is a crime?
So
here's my question, right? And I'm probably gonna mind bend and fucked everybody right now. But somebody has to write the machine's codec for what crime is. And that somebody is not another machine, it's a person.
Yeah.
Which will be based on emotion.
So that is a tough question. But I think crime would be just like harming it, like another individual in some capacity. It's like, we shouldn't harm each other, period.
Right. But what's harming? I know, I'm just going down a rabbit hole, but do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's so hard to comprehend.
Sounds like a giant shroom trip. Like, I'd be like sitting in a room being like, but what's harming?
Listen, I don't do drugs, but quite honestly, conversations like these are like what I would compare to somebody saying they're on acid or something.
Yeah, I'm just like,
because it's such a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And there's so many different viewpoints. I think if you would look at somebody as rich as Elon Musk, he would maybe say, I don't know what he would say. He might say, oh, well, we can create a consciousness that does not base anything on emotion. And that consciousness evolves and develops over time after studying the human race, and then becomes, the writer, almost like human society tries to create their own God, which we've seen occur thousands of years ago when the Egyptians were around, when the Romans were around, where they would worship their own gods.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you said you were right. Time comes, it goes back, but in different ways.
Yeah.
And we would, if that were to happen, we would almost see time just go back, but in a more complicated way.
Yeah. I've seen Elon talk about art. I think he's afraid of it, artificial intelligence. I
think he said that in a TED talk or something.
He was kind of like, I don't know, like these things are going to be smarter than us. I don't know. I don't know if this is a good idea. But
did you see him talking to the Chinese billionaire guy?
Yeah, the guy from Alibaba.
Yeah. And he like made him feel stupid or something. I don't know.
Yeah. That was an interesting video. I don't know why those two are even talking together, but they're like so polar opposite. But
it is interesting. I honestly did not expect to get into this conversation today, but like, I think it's so interesting for people to think about. What would you prefer? What's like the best system? I
like it when I have control. So it's
exactly.
in control of my own life. I know there's a lot of things, like I know that I don't have control over anything, period, like in the world, but I know I have control over myself. I would like to just keep that, if that's cool. Let me just have that, please. Thank you.
Any government body watching.
Yeah. It's like, just let me do my thing. I have morals, like I think, but what are morals? Like you were even asking.
Exactly. That. Like, and I think, then it goes down to faith. And I always keep in the middle of all my shows, but it comes down to what you believe. You talk about like the universe, you talk about faith, you talk about religion, you talk about people believe in different higher powers. And I think that's what it ends up coming down to is what you believe. And then I think that's why a lot of people believe in a higher power, because they know that the rabbit hole goes so deep in society that it's easier to think about a higher power.
Yeah. So like I mentioned, I try to like step back from society and just kind of like watch what's going on. So like for me to like fit into a mold or follow one religion or whatever I don't think that's my purpose in life personally. Like I think my purpose is to examine what people want and try to give them that. And I could just see like the way technology is going, and I'm like, a lot of people hate it, but a lot of people embrace it, and I'm just kind of like, this isn't something we can fight, so maybe we can mold it into something that's useful for humanity.
Interesting. Most people, well, I this is why I love interviewing people, because I get to hear their POVs, what they think is, I guess the way to live. But it's like, no, you're not saying, you can't live this way or you can't live this way.
No, people should live however they want to live. Personally, like I don't want to limit any. Like I'm a firm believer in free spiritedness. Like I don't want to control anyone. It's like, like you can stay. Like it's fine. Like it's like do what you want to do, but I don't want to control you. Just how I don't want you to control me as well. So
can we talk about ad space? Because that was an area we skipped over, but I think that's fascinating.
Okay.
Is how you can truly monetize anything. I mean, if you really think about it, listen, I could call Jimmy, a real estate agent, and say, hey, we have a big studio in Niagara, and we want sponsors, and we want to put your face on our wall. And he would pay us for that. So we just monetize that wall.
Yeah.
So the ad space idea is just like so mind-blowing. So when you said somebody could wear glasses and look around them right now, and I could sell digital ad space.
Yeah, and like digital.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. So there are billboards called digital out-of-home billboards. So for example, like those aren't like for your glasses yet, but let's say, you know how your phone listens to you and you get like catered ads to yourself? So you would get an ad that only you see and is for you, kind of like how on your phone. So like you put that guy's face on here, you're always seeing that guy's face. But with the glasses, you're seeing
higher paid advertising.
Yeah,
because
so
it's more directed.
Yeah, it's just directed to what you want to see. So on that wall, let's say with the glasses, you could see that guy with the face, but I maybe be seeing like a golden retriever perhaps, and they're like, hey, buy a golden retriever or something. But because
That's
like
fascinating, yeah.
it'd be the same wall, but we'd be seeing something else.
And it's more defined towards that specific person through
Yeah.
collecting data and interests from a variety of
Yeah.
your life. Will physical ad space die?
I don't think so, but I do feel like it will also have that same approach. Like it may just be like per capita in this area right now. There's like 100 people that all seem to like Gucci. Boom, Gucci ad on the wall.
Right. So
Like it's gonna get more
Yeah.
specific.
and that's where I think the higher paid advertising comes into play, right? So like you talk about like lead gen, let's say like Facebook,
Yeah.
pay per click, right? Whatever, right? The higher clicks you get, the more you pay because Facebook's doing a better job at collecting data for their advertisers, which is why they spend billions in purchasing data from other companies immediately, because you see like technology companies now, they don't make all their money off of like Instagram doesn't make all their money off of actually having you do a pay ad. They make all of their money through selling your data to other companies.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that. Is that crossing a line?
I understand that in like Europe, I think the European Union said no more of that.
Really?
So yeah, I think I was reading something about that not too long ago, but they're like, hey, you can't listen on our society and like cater ads to them and take their data. Maybe perhaps they can opt into that option and you can pay them.
I think there needs to be choice.
Yeah.
Because I think we'll start to see people get frustrated. Like I see now people saying like, oh, I'm not, like I was just talking about something and now it's on my Google feed. Like that's actually creepy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's being recommended to me on the news. The second I look up let's say you look up like an NFL player on Instagram, higher chance that you're going to see an article written on them on Google. Within like hours.
Sometimes even minutes. Like it's just like, hey, I'm probably gonna leave here. We talked about all this stuff. My phone's probably gonna cater an ad to me.
So what do you think about that?
I think it is what it is.
You can't do anything about it.
Use it, embrace it, like monetize on it going up, monetize on it going away. Like I think as an entrepreneur, you should be like for me, I like to stay nimble. Whatever's hot, be in the market.
Yeah, I've noticed about that with you.
And then if it's not, okay, time to move on to something else. Like having the ability to pivot is very important for me.
Yeah, and we were actually talking about that, capital intensive businesses, is it easier to pivot? Is it harder to pivot? All of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I think if you have like all these like capital commitments, like staff, offices, all this other stuff, and you're like, oh shit, everything just changed. I need to go this way.
But you can't because you're tied to the old way.
Yeah.
Which I find is actually interesting. Maybe that's why, Blockbuster went out, right? They didn't pivot. They stayed where they were at. And
also like trying to move everything they have into that direction, like they're going to have to do a lot of layoffs like immediately. Like,
yeah.
And I think they waited a little bit too long. Like they probably should have like invested in like an R&D.
Didn't they have the option to like buy Netflix?
They did, yeah. So Netflix was like, buy us, and they're like, this is a joke. No one's going to do this. And then in comes Netflix. But now Disney Plus surpassed Netflix on subscribers. So yeah, like Netflix was the first to do it, but Netflix never originally had those like cinematic connections to production houses and all these like.
Now Disney literally has any Disney show, anything that they make, their in-house production company.
Yeah, so they basically are just like, yo, we've been doing this now, and now we're like going to monetize on the platform as well. So I think with time, I'm a little worried for Netflix, like to be completely frank. Like now that Paramount has their own streaming thing coming out, obviously like the HBO stuff's always been great. They've been making great things. Disney,
Amazon.
Yeah, so
Amazon has so much capital.
Netflix was never a content creator, and so like now that they're getting into that game, it's kind of like there's like all these other companies that have been doing it for like almost over 100 years, like.
And that is interesting because now we're starting to see Netflix make more of their own stuff. Is it because it's cheaper?
I don't know if it's cheaper.
Just because it's exclusive, so people want to see that movie because Netflix produced it.
Yeah, I think it's exclusive and whatnot. But like these other companies like Disney and all, they have the connections to the producers, to the people that have had a track record in making great movies and great content and whatnot.
A lot of people are more prone to watch Disney than they would Netflix because Disney has a pass in creating.
Yeah, and I also feel like Netflix does what their users want. While like if you're going to be in a creative media industry, you got to take some risks. You got to put out content that is hard to digest sometimes, you know? It's like that's what art is.
So are we going to start to see streaming platforms become more of content creators or stick to, subscription platforms purchasing or renting, rights to certain movies or shows?
I think it's going to stay on like a subscription base for like the consumer. But I do feel like these platforms are going to like just be content exclusive per se.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Phil, we're kind of wrapping up on our time here because we went down the rabbit hole.
We went down for a rabbit hole. Yeah.
I'm okay with it if you are.
I'm cool. I'm in.
I thought that was the most fascinating.
I had a great chat.
That might have been the most fascinating conversation I've had in a long time. Okay. I love talking about that stuff because it really just dissects human beings and society and how we think. And I just think that's so fascinating because it's so opinionated. I truly find other people's opinions valuable. So thank you for sharing yours and not being afraid to.
Oh, no problem. I don't think I said anything wrong. I hope so. Like,
I don't think anybody really can say anything wrong. I think it's just how somebody takes it.
No, honestly, like you're really good at this.
Thank you.
I think like you're good.
I appreciate that.
Bringing the information out of the people.
Out of the people. Empower the people.
Yeah. Empowering people. Yeah.
There you go.
This was a blast. Thank you.
Hey, Phil, thanks so much, brother. Guys, if you want to reach out to Phil, I run a media production company too, but Phil does a pretty damn good job at his stuff. So, Phil, where can people hit you?
On my Instagram, find me like Phil Kluba, our website, www.justpressit.ca, or our company website, Instagram, Just Press It.
Press it, baby.
Yeah, press it, baby.
Hey, and he's the guy with the VR goggles on his logo, and it's like this sick background.
Yeah.
I want to get one made like that because I think they're sick.
I made that into an NFT. If you want, I'll make you a little
no
NFT
way.
thing. So like Twitter now has like these NFT display pictures you can do.
And you put it as yours.
Yeah.
That's so sick. Yeah. That's like, man, that's a whole conversation for another time. We'll have to get you back on in like a year and
see where we're at.
Yeah, see where society's
Yeah.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening, watching. I hope that this completely messed up your mind and you're now thinking of how society thinks and looking at things from an outside perspective. I don't think we said anything wrong, but if we did, please comment and hate below because it drives the living crap out of our numbers.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, watching. Feel free to subscribe, like, and comment, and check us out on Instagram @meetinggold. And comment down below what you want us to ask other golden guests such as Phil. Thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next episode.